The Brock Lesnar vs. Oba feud is back on, but fans are finding some logic issues. We'll also check out what's up with Seth Rollins, LA Knight, and more. Starting things off with the continuation of Brock Lesnar vs. Oba Femi and the issues that this feud could face. Going into WrestleMania 42, Oba vs. Brock Lesnar was a red-hot feud, and was one of the most highly anticipated matches on the entire WrestleMania card. You can tell even the company knew how big and special this match felt because Triple H himself was physically seen and involved with some of the segments between Brock and Oba heading into that match. So Triple H only appearing on screen during the road to WrestleMania for the Brock and Oba feud really made that match feel like an even bigger deal. And the way everything played out at WrestleMania 42 was surprisingly perfect. It can't get much better than that. The match was everything it needed to be. It was brief, included the big moments everyone wanted to see, and resulted in Oba Femi pinning Brock Lesnar clearly in the middle of the ring. Then, of course, Brock Lesnar had his big retirement moment that really elevated the win even more for Oba. Not only did he defeat Brock Lesnar, but he defeated Brock Lesnar in his final match and retired him. That made the win appear even stronger and more massive. If things stayed like that and Oba eventually worked his way to the world title picture, maybe that would have been perfect. But we see that's no longer the case. Brock Lesnar made a surprise return to Raw to lay out Oba and officially reveal that his retirement at WrestleMania was apparently a ruse. Although this was a massive viral moment and a big shock since everyone thought Brock was retired, the issue here that fans are discussing is all logic related and wondering where exactly you can take this feud to next. Because some fans and even some legends are claiming that no matter what route they go in here for the future of this feud between Brock and Oba, it's looking like a lose-lose situation either way. Oba's singular retirement win over Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania 42 was massive. It felt special and felt like a big WrestleMania-defining moment. But with the feud continuing, it feels like some of the meaning with Oba's big win at WrestleMania 42 is getting erased. And if Oba defeats Brock Lesnar again, it's cool and great for him, but it won't be more special than his WrestleMania 42 win. It's kind of like seeing a big movie or television episode for the first time. You can watch it over and over again, but it's hard to recapture that magic of your first viewing. And that applies here to Oba defeating Brock for the second time. It'll be great, the fans will love it, but that second win is not going to feel bigger or more important than what we saw the first time at WrestleMania 42. And on the flip side of that, if Brock Lesnar defeats Oba Femi in the rematch, that does feel like it'll take something away from Oba's win at WrestleMania 42. Instead of it being Oba dominating their one and only meeting and sending him into retirement and taking the torch, now it'll turn into a series of matches with them being tied up at one win apiece. And you have to wonder if Oba will be able to recover from taking a loss to Brock Lesnar, and if the creative team can properly keep Oba on track after a huge first loss like that. So that's why some fans are excited to see this feud continue, but others are a bit worried about the logic behind this feud continuing. Because with the rematch, no matter what the result may be, it feels like the storyline and feud will take a massive blow no matter who wins. An absolute lose-lose type of scenario for the feud. If Oba wins the rematch, you pretty much have to ask yourself, what was the point of Brock returning? And if Brock wins, you pretty much have to ask yourself if that takes away from Oba's WrestleMania win and if it's going to eliminate his momentum. So it's a tricky situation either way for those reasons, with many people wondering if they just wrote themselves into a corner by resuming this feud right here. A lot of fans originally thought that maybe they would have used the Gunther and Paul Heyman dynamic to explain the story of how Brock Lesnar returns to in-ring action. Maybe Gunther wouldn't get over the fact that Brock Lesnar retired without facing him. So, through his relationship with Paul Heyman and having that special favor also hang in there, maybe Gunther could have lured Brock Lesnar out of retirement through that situation with Paul Heyman? That's a return story for Brock that would have caused less logic issues. You can argue that Brock turned babyface when he retired at WrestleMania 42. He was emotional, he was saying goodbye, and the fans were cheering for him. And with this direction here with Gunther, Brock could have kept that babyface momentum going as well. Brock could have made a heroic return to get Gunther to finally shut his mouth, and that leads to Brock versus Gunther and the real retirement match. That's the route a lot of fans were theorizing about after WrestleMania 42. It makes sense, and there's not many logic issues there with that route. But with the route of continuing the Oba and Brock feud, fans are scared that it just gets messed up along the way and goes from being this very exciting feud to a disastrous one that goes on for too long and makes less sense the more that it goes on for. So it's hard to see what the long-term vision is with this continuing Brock versus Oba. We know that they love long feuds and stretching things out, so the safe assumption is that Brock versus Oba continues for a large chunk of 2026. Maybe Brock wins the rematch, and the plan is to turn this into a series of matches. If Brock wins a match number 2, especially if it's not cleanly, you just know there's going to be a third match for sure. So this feud could turn out to be similar to what we saw in 2023 with Brock and Cody's feud. Maybe the plan could be to have 3 matches between Oba and Brock. Oba ultimately wins the series 2 wins to 1. And maybe Brock lifts Oba's arm up and officially passes the torch after that third match. That's the predictable route for this feud right here, but we'll have to see where they take it next, and if there's any more twists along the way. Speaking of some concerns that fans are having, that brings us to the current situation with LA Knight. Following a 6-man tag win at WrestleMania 42, LA Knight vanished from television for a complete 28 days, and finally reappeared on the May 18th edition of Raw. His full month-long television hiatus was reportedly for creative reasons and was not injury-related. He returned for 2 backstage segments, one with Jimmy and Jay, and the other with Seth Rollins. In the segment with Jimmy and Jay, LA Knight strongly voiced his disappointment in them for pretty much reverting to their old ways, standing by Roman and just playing dirty again. And in the segment with Seth Rollins, LA Knight perfectly predicted what was going to happen to Seth. How he was going to go out there and face the Vision on his own, probably win the match, but get stomped out by the end of the night. And that's exactly what happened. LA Knight said Seth is going to need help, but how he's not going to get it from him, and walked away. So 2 different segments there for LA Knight's return to television. And those 2 segments have fans feeling like there's no real solid plans in place for LA Knight right now. Those segments felt pretty random. Feels like it was just part on Raw to give LA Knight something to do because the story path just isn't clear at the moment. Reports have been claiming that LA Knight and Gunther were supposed to get into a long feud with each other coming out of WrestleMania 42, but that got scrapped and Gunther was sent over to Smackdown to face Cody. So it feels like following that Gunther cancellation, the backup plans for LA Knight have yet to be finalized, so he's just doing some side quests right now, and it'll probably be a few weeks until a clear path emerges for him. Fans certainly hope that his path doesn't include him feuding with the Vision anymore, because he's been doing that for over a year already, so hopefully it's anything besides continuing to feud with the Vision.